Process mastery has been a really interesting thing for us since it's basically been with us for around about 16 years now, this textbook. Now, when I originally wrote the first edition, it took me 2 years to put together. And then we realised that it wasn't up to scratch, it didn't have enough information in it. So we came up with the second edition, and the second edition took me 1,246 hours of typing to finish. And basically this is an updated version of the original textbook, and it's now used by people and practitioners around the world when they're doing business improvement utilising these different methodologies. Now, the reason I actually put this together was to give people who are going to do business improvement a practitioner's view of the utilisation of these Lean and Six Sigma methodologies. I think the thing that really pushed me down the path of putting this book together was originally frustration. It was frustration in what I was being taught. I was exposed to a lot of tools, a lot of discipline around the utilisation of each tool and how it was applied and things like that. We went down the path of studying statistics, and there was this big focus on the mathematics behind the statistics and all of the theory around statistical analysis. And what I realised when I got involved in leading project work is that the theory didn't apply in the real world. So this focus on the individual pieces and this focus on the maths behind it and the software and things like that didn't get to the crux of it. And that is basically, if you have a holistic view of business improvement, you're there to solve a problem. You're there to close a gap in performance. So after leading 8 projects, I basically consolidated all of the information that I had around learning in the application of these things and trial and error and reviewing what we were doing. And the consolidation of that turned out to be a ton of information that could be put into a book form. So it's interesting because when I originally wrote this book, it was basically a book for me. It was the consolidation of my notes that I had it all together in one place. But then when people saw it, they realised that it was better than one person's notes. It was something that a lot of people wanted to get their hands on. So it ended up becoming a book, and that was what was really the driver behind putting it together. What's interesting is I learned a ton about the methodologies of Lean and Six Sigma when I actually wrote this book. Not in the first edition so much, but it was in the second edition. And the reason for that is quite simple. When I was doing project work, the intent of that work was to solve the problem and learn the process and application of utilising these methodologies. When I wrote the book, the initial book, it was a consolidation of my notes. In the second edition, we realised that this was bigger than just one person's, detailed information, and we were going to go public with it in a concerted effort. So what I did is I did a lot of research behind the tools. I went back to the originators of the tools. So I looked in manufacturing companies in Japan. I spoke to people who'd worked in Motorola when they originally developed the Six Sigma methodology. And what I found was that the intent of a lot of tools, particularly in the way that I was taught them, had actually been lost. We didn't realise what the tool was utilised for, so we were taught that we should put this tool in this particular place, so we just did it without thinking about it. But the interesting thing is, as I learnt the intent of these different tools, I realised that some tools weren't necessary at certain points, and then other tools were necessary. But what that did was it gave me a much better consolidated view, or a holistic view is probably a better way to describe it, of how you apply these methodologies. And let's just face it, these are just toolkits that you utilise to help you achieve a goal, and that goal is to solve a problem. So, you've got to keep a holistic view of it. That was my key takeaway. I often get asked, why did I call it Process Mastery with Lean Six Sigma? Well, there's a couple of parts to that title. Process Mastery alludes to the idea that we want to master the processes. And if you think about an organisation, it is nothing more than a consolidation of processes and systems. Without processes and systems, you actually don't have a business. The second part of it is Lean and Six Sigma. Now, the reason we have those methodologies there is quite simple. Most of the problems or most of the improvement work that people will do in an organisation to add value or generate value for the organisation are going to be either focused on throughput type issues. For example, it could be to reduce cycle time. It could be to reduce inventory that sits in between steps in a process or work in progress. It could be to get more production through the chain, or it could be to reduce inefficiencies or excess waste we're seeing. They're all throughput type issues. The other issue that we get to focus on is process variation. And process variation type problems are ones where you're producing defects or you're delivering a poor quality service on, certain occasions. Or you are trying to reach a target on average, but you're not reaching that target or something like that. They're all process variation type problems. And the interesting thing is, a toolkit with Lean and Six Sigma in it is the most common toolkit that you'll utilise to solve those problems. Lean focuses on throughput, Six Sigma focuses on process variation. And that's why we put it together. And I have done that many projects over the years, and I've mentored somewhere in the vicinity of 3,000 to 4,000 projects, and the vast majority of those draw mostly from the Lean and Six Sigma toolkits.